All right, so spatial data doesn't just contain spatial data, it also contains aspatial data. In the case of vector data, what we can do is we can add attributes because we need to have things like for our island, we need to have a name, we might have an area. For our streams, names again, length. For our trees, we might have species, height, dBH. All kinds of other information can be attached to our spatial data. So to put a name on our island boundaries, the first thing I'm going to do is, close that, you didn't see it, is I'm going to go over here to my island boundary and I'm going to open the attribute table. So the attribute table is a table that is attached to every shapefile, and it looks a lot like an Excel spreadsheet table. And it is similar to that, except it's more constrained. You can't do equations and things in it, but you can calculate values that are in it. But it's where we put the data that's associated with each of our features. Now, if I go up to Map and I do Select, I can click on my island and I can see blue selected here. So that means these attributes are for this polygon. If I click over here, this one gets highlighted. So that allows me to tell which attributes are associated with which polygon. Now, you can see it says shape, which is not really an attribute table. Arc just puts it there to let us know what the shape is. And then ID. ID is something that's put into all shape files, and it's 0 for some reason. FID is feature ID. That one should be numbered. We don't worry too much about those because Arc just takes care of them. What we want to do is we want to be able to add some additional stuff. So we're missing other columns in our table here. This comes out of the database world, so they call it fields. You'll also have people talk about it as attributes or columns, but let's go ahead and add one. Now we add one, it comes up with this new table, and you can see it's got the existing ones, and then I want to add a new one for the name of our island. Now, very important to specify the correct data type to go with this. And we want this to be text. Notice there aren't a lot of options. Don't do short, do long. That's an integer. It's a long integer. Float and double, just do double for floating point and you'll be safe. And then dates and text. So really those are the only four I really use. Long, double, date, and text. There we go. Okay, notice its length is limited to 255. It's not too big. But notice that we're also kind of stuck here and it hasn't updated this. So you can close this, but it says all unsafe edits will be lost. Well, that's strange. Why doesn't it let me save there? Notice up here, our tab bar has changed to fields, and there's a save up here. So we need to hit save. Okay, now, ta-da, there's our new column. And I would go ahead and close this. Okay, and now we have our new column. Now, if you're used to ArcMap, you'll know that ArcMap used to have two modes, an editing mode where you could do digitizing, and then out of editing mode, you could change attributes. That's still kind of here. It's easier to switch back and forth. Like all I had to do was double click on my attribute table, and I can go ahead and put in a name for my island. Okay, and let's make sure that's the right one. Oh, yep, that's the big one. Okay, oh, actually, that'd be even better. Let's call it the Big Island. There we go. And now I can click down here. Now notice it hasn't selected this one. If I need to make sure I'm in the right one, then I can click and select it, then change it, and we'll call that the Little Island. Okay, now again, I was just editing some things. You'll notice add field is grayed out. So I'm actually in a mode here where I'm editing, and I always want to make sure I save my changes. So I'm going to go up here and do a save. Okay, so now we should be able to put those on our island. So let's go ahead and go to our island, and there's a bunch of things in here that you'll use quite a bit, but for right now we're going to say label, and it just labels it by the ID. Okay, not really what we wanted, but that's okay. You'll also see there's labeling properties. We hit that, this panel over here opens up, or pane, and it has $feature.id. Well, that's kind of obscure, but what that means is it's looking at this feature, okay, and then it's picked the field ID, which is right there, okay. Let's just go ahead and delete that and double click on name, and you'll see it puts in $feature name. Now you can write complex expressions in here to make your labels. I don't necessarily recommend spending a lot of time on that, I would just go ahead and put what you want in the field, especially at this stage, and then click apply. Ta-da! Now we have our islands labeled. Oops, gotta hold down C. Okay, well, we have one of our islands labeled. I did save changes. Why isn't our little island labeled? Well, that's annoying. Okay, well, I'm going to play around with the labeling and then I'm going to see if I can figure out why that's not showing up. I just did this a minute ago and it worked. Okay, so again, if we're in labeling properties, you'll see there's some other options up here at the top. This is going to change the main pane that we're in, okay? And then there'll be other options within that. So here we've got symbol, and here I've got appearance, okay? Formatting, so a whole bunch of different options. Now, first thing I want to do is make this bigger. That's right there. Ta-da. Okay, again, hit apply. There it is. Now, here's a really good example of something we don't want to do. Notice how when we do this, we get like a lot of confusion between the label and the background. Okay, so we want to fix that. We want to be able to see this no matter what the background is. One of the best ways to do that is by adding a halo. If we open up halo, go over, in this case, since I have black text, I want to put a white halo around it. Now, for some reason, the default outline width is 0. I'm going to make that a 1 and see what that looks like. Oof, not so good. Now, the reason it's not so good is because, well, I don't know. If you're struggling with this, go ahead and make it bigger. Apply. Gives us a little view of it down here. Yeah, that just does not look good. My halo is having some problems. Let's make the halo bigger. It looks a little better, but for some reason I've got an outline around it, then the halo, and then the inside, which is not really what I wanted. So let's go ahead and kill the outline color and see what that does. Nope, and it's interesting that I just did this right before I made this recording and it worked fine. So that's something you're gonna need to get used to. Oh, outline color, halo color. Okay, some reason that added another outline color. Strange. Okay, but you also kind of got to see how I use arc. Sometimes you have to play around with it, try different things, see what's going on. That's kind of big for a halo. And you'll want to, like I said, really spend some time and make some notes. There we go. Nice. Okay, so then of course the question is, why doesn't this one have a label in it? I'm going to go ahead and clear my selection. Okay, so in the map tab over here in the selection panel, there's clear, and that'll clear my selection. And I'm just kind of wondering what happened there with my little island. So I'm going to go back, make sure the attribute table looks okay. Nope, it did not save my changes, which has happened to me repeatedly, and hopefully you saw me click save. But let's call this little island. And then I'm going to go up to table, and I don't see a save here. And all right, just go ahead and email me if you see a save. Now, what I've done in the past is clicked on the next row, but I don't feel like we should really have to do that, but maybe that is how we get those to stick, which is interesting. And then I can click save. Okay, so yeah, it looks like you have to double click on this next row to get that to save. That's a little strange, but it seems to work. All right. Okay, so now we have labels. We have not great cartography, but workable for this lab because we're also here to have some fun. And now you can also label your streams and your trees in the same way. Notice the labels may not land where you want them to, and you can spend a lot of time in ArcGIS trying to get your labels to go where they are. However, what I do and what most professional cartographers do is we bring this into another editing package. Photoshop or Illustrator is the top end one. I use PowerPoint because it's really fast and easy to put labels on things. You will find it is a bit harder in ArcGIS. So I tend to make my maps, okay, and I'll show you how to make a final map in a sec, okay, and then I'll bring them into PowerPoint. Okay,